Hey folks, Alex McMahon here of Evolve Nutritional Therapy. This is going to be our fourth and final video on our metabolism series. In the very first video, we covered what your metabolism is and why it matters. In the second video, we covered how you may have damaged it with fat loss attempts. In the very last video, we covered how to repair a broken metabolism, and we're going to be continuing with those steps today. So the very first thing to keep in mind when it comes to continuing on your goal of repairing a damaged metabolism is to increase the amount of calories that you take in based on the degree of damage that you have. So if you go back and you watch the third video, what you hear is one of the very last steps is you're going to have to increase your calories, your carbohydrates, and your saturated fat intake. So the majority of those calories that you take in from the increase should come from carbohydrates predominantly. Saturated fat should be a little bit lower on the spectrum compared to carbohydrates, but still more than protein. So when it comes to the degree of metabolic damage that you have, in the previous video we spoke about giving yourself an equal amount of time that you spent dieting to repair your metabolism. So someone who's spent a lot more time dieting is typically going to have more metabolic damage. That means that they're going to need to increase their calories a little bit slower. So that would mean roughly every 2 weeks they would increase their calories by about 1 to 200. Now, someone who has spent less time dieting and has had less metabolic damage is going to be able to increase their calories a little bit quicker. They would do about 2 to 300 every 2 weeks. And again, the majority of these calories should be coming from carbohydrates, some from saturated fat in the form of coconut oil, butter, fattier cuts of meat, or even something like egg yolks are all going to be good to go. So increase your calories based on the amount of damage that you've done. And keep in mind, we want to increase calories as much as we can without causing a significant fat gain. So next up, you want to listen to your body. There's going to be an adaptation period. There may be some bloating. There may be some digestive things that happen during this time. But just also realize that your body's really adapted to a lower intake. So when you start to increase the amount of food that you're eating to an actual sufficient amount, there's going to be an adaptation period where your body's just going to be adjusting. Also, don't be afraid to eat more if you feel physically hungry, if you feel like you need it. Also, don't be afraid if you're totally stuffed to eat a little bit less one day. You have to listen to your body and realize that this is going to be something you're going to stick with for a little bit of time. So you really need to do what works for you individually, but don't be afraid to eat a little less, or don't be afraid to eat more if you're hungry. Right now, we're not worried about those six-pack abs. We're worried about returning you to a place of health and restoring your metabolic health on top of that. Also, the very last thing, but probably one of the more important things that you're going to want to pay attention to is really trying to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. Sleep plays a pivotal role in hormonal and metabolic health, and it's also one of our most powerful anti-stress tools. So when we're restoring the metabolism, we want to make sure that we're making it a really low-stress environment for the body. And sleep is one of those things that allows us to recover from the physical and mental stresses of the day. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're adding a significant source of stress on the body while also removing our most powerful anti-stress tool. Also, sleep deprivation leads to an overstimulation of the stress hormones, and over time, with too many of those stress hormones, they'll actually start to steal the hormonal precursors to things like testosterone and estrogen. Also, stress is going to cause inflammation. Inflammation is going to cause stress. So those two are going to be like a catch-22 that feed off of each other. So one of the most powerful things you're going to be able to do is really shoot for that 7 to 9 hours of restful sleep every single night. So that is what you can do to help restore your metabolism. As always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at Evolve Nutritional Therapy. You can email me at evolvent_pdx@gmail.com. And you can find me on Snapchat and Twitter at evolvent_pdx. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.